I never imagined that the person I trusted most could betray me so completely. I thought I had a friend, a colleague, someone who genuinely cared about my work and my ambitions. I was wrong, so wrong. And the moment I realized it, the world seemed to tilt under my feet. It started with the one thing I had dreamed of for years, landing my first major project. I'd worked at Sterling & Company Design Group for almost 3 years, quietly, steadily building my reputation. I was never the loudest in meetings, never the one to take credit loudly, but my work spoke for itself. For weeks, I'd been developing a proposal that could redefine our department's entire direction. It wasn't just numbers and slides, it was personal. I'd poured my creativity, my sleepless nights, my belief into it. And when I finally finished, I felt something I hadn't felt in months: pride. That's when I made my mistake. I shared it with Logan Hayes, my colleague, my supposed friend. Logan was the kind of guy everyone liked instantly. Clean cut, sharp suit, easy smile. He had that effortless charm that made managers trust him and coworkers want to impress him. We often worked late together, sharing ideas and coffee at our desks when the office was quiet. I thought we were a team. "I've been thinking about this layout," I'd said one night, sliding my laptop toward him. "It's risky, but I think it could make the brand identity stronger." He leaned forward, eyes lighting up. "This is brilliant, man. Seriously. You've got something here. That smile. That perfect, disarming smile." I didn't know it then, but that was the night he decided to take everything from me. A few days later, during the weekly team meeting, I noticed something strange. Our manager, Rebecca Sterling, walked in with a bright expression, holding a printed presentation in her hands. "Before we start, I just want to say, Logan, fantastic job on your proposal this morning. This is exactly the innovation we've been waiting for." I froze. Logan smiled modestly, lowering his eyes like he didn't want the attention. "Just wanted to bring something fresh to the table," he said. The words blurred around me. My heart was pounding so hard it drowned out every sound in the room. I knew that proposal. The slides she held. The color scheme. The wording. Every line. That was my work. I felt my throat tighten. I wanted to speak, God, I wanted to stand up and scream that he'd stolen it, but when I looked across the table, Logan's gaze met mine. Calm. Innocent. He gave me a small, reassuring smile. As if daring me to say something, that smile broke something inside me. After the meeting, people congratulated him. "You're killing it lately," one coworker said. "You've got such a unique eye." I sat at my desk, staring at my monitor, my hands shaking. I opened my folders, checked my drafts. He'd accessed them somehow, he must have. Maybe through the shared drive, maybe through one of those helpful times he offered to fix something for me. I'd been careless. I'd trusted him too much. That day I didn't go to lunch. I couldn't. The betrayal tasted like rust in my mouth. When the office finally quieted, I walked past Logan's desk. He was gone, but his screen was still on. My heart stopped when I saw one of my drafts open on his desktop, my file name, my document. I stared at it for a long moment, then shut it off quietly and walked away. That night, I sat in my apartment staring at the city lights through the window. The anger in me was heavy, but beneath it was something worse: disbelief. I replayed every moment in my head, every late night, every conversation. The laughter. The teamwork. The fake friendship. The next day, I went to Rebecca. "Rebecca," I said carefully, standing at her office door. "There's been a misunderstanding about the presentation." She looked up, puzzled. "What do you mean?" "I prepared that project. The one Logan presented yesterday, it's mine." She blinked, surprised. "Are you sure? He said he'd been working on it for weeks." I clenched my jaw. "I can show you my drafts. The timestamps, the progress logs. Every piece of that idea came from my work." Rebecca hesitated. "I'm not saying I don't believe you," she said softly, "but Logan's been very proactive lately. I'll look into it, okay?" Her tone was careful, neutral. Too neutral. I walked out feeling even worse. I realized then that if I didn't fight this myself, no one else would. That night, I started planning. I gathered everything: emails, drafts, revisions, screenshots. Every single trace of my work from start to finish. I created a folder labeled Proof. Then I backed it up 3 times, just in case. The anger that once made me want to confront him directly turned into something colder, calculated. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to accuse. I was going to destroy his illusion piece by piece. Over the next few weeks, Logan basked in attention. He walked around like he owned the place, Rebecca trusting him more, colleagues looking up to him. And I played along. I smiled when he bragged. I nodded in meetings. I even pretended to ask his advice. All the while, I was documenting. But I didn't stop there. I started setting subtle traps, tiny inconsistencies he couldn't explain later. I'd send him files with harmless but slightly altered data, then wait for him to reuse it publicly. When he did, I'd quietly correct the numbers during discussions, making him look uncertain. It wasn't enough yet. But it was satisfying watching cracks appear in his perfect facade. One night, we both stayed late again. "You've been quiet lately," he said casually, leaning on my desk. "Just focused," I replied without looking up. That he chuckled. "Don't take things so seriously, man. It's just work." "Right," I said flatly. "Just work." He didn't notice the way my jaw tightened. The final straw came 2 weeks later when a major client requested a follow-up to Logan's proposal. Logan forwarded my private draft directly to them. My unpolished version, with my notes still in the margins. He'd done it so quickly, he didn't even realize the metadata still had my name as the author. That was his first real mistake. When the client replied, copying Rebecca and upper management, thanking Logan for his excellent research, I knew exactly what I had to do. I spent the entire night organizing every piece of evidence, building a presentation that mirrored the one he'd stolen, side-by-side comparisons, matching dates, timestamps, edits. When I was done, I looked at it and felt something shift inside me. I wasn't just hurt anymore. I was ready. The next morning, I walked into the office earlier than usual. The fluorescent lights flickered on, cold and sterile. I could hear my own footsteps echoing on the tiles. I opened my laptop, pulled up my files, and sent Rebecca a meeting request titled "Clarification on Project Ownership, Urgent." By the time everyone arrived, my hands were steady. My heart wasn't racing anymore. It was calm, dangerously calm. Rebecca accepted the meeting. Logan did too, probably assuming it was another progress update. He smiled at me as we walked in together. "Big morning?" he asked lightly. "Yeah," I said. "You could say that." The conference room filled quickly, Rebecca, Logan, 2 senior managers, and a few team members who had been part of the project's rollout. I stood at the end of the table, plugged in my laptop, and began. "Before we continue with project planning," I said evenly, "there's something important we need to address." Rebecca frowned slightly. "What's going on?" "It's about the proposal," I said. "The one Logan presented." Logan leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms with a smirk. "Oh. You mean the one that landed us the client?" "Exactly that one," I replied, and opened the folder labeled Proof. The room went silent as I clicked through slide after slide, showing my original drafts, timestamps, earlier versions, even internal emails where Logan had asked for feedback on details that only existed in my documents. I didn't rush. I wanted every second to sink in. Logan's smirk faded fast. Rebecca leaned forward, her brows furrowed. "Wait, these timestamps, these are weeks before Logan's submission." "Yes," I said calmly. "Every idea, every note, every piece of research came from my work. Logan had access to my shared drive and used it to duplicate everything." I glanced at Logan. His face had gone pale. "Do you have anything to say?" I asked quietly. He stammered something about collaboration, about misunderstanding, but his voice cracked halfway through. I didn't need to say more. The evidence spoke louder than anything I could have yelled. Rebecca sat back slowly, exhaling. "I'll need to review this, but it's very clear who did the work here." And for the first time in weeks, I felt a strange calm wash over me. The room stayed silent long after I stopped speaking. The hum of the air conditioner was the only sound cutting through the tension. Logan sat motionless, eyes fixed on the table, while everyone else exchanged uncertain looks. Rebecca finally cleared her throat. "Logan, this is serious. If what's shown here is accurate, we have a serious breach of ethics." It's a misunderstanding," he stammered. "We collaborated on this together. He gave me input, and I turned toward him. Input. My voice was calm, almost soft, but it carried weight. You took my finished work, removed my name, and presented it as your own. That's not collaboration. The color drained from his face. He tried to speak again, but Rebecca cut him off. Enough. We'll verify everything. She looked at me, her tone quieter. Thank you for bringing this forward. We'll take appropriate action. I nodded once, gathered my files, and left the room before anyone could say another word. As the door closed behind me, I finally let out a long, shaky breath. The hallway felt lighter, the office noises distant and unimportant. For the first time in months, I wasn't the one second-guessing myself. The following days were chaos for Logan. He stopped talking as much, avoided eye contact, and kept his door shut. Rumors started spreading. People had seen him arguing with Rebecca behind closed doors, heard his voice rising, pleading. By the end of the week, his once confident walk had turned into a slow shuffle. I didn't celebrate, at least not outwardly. I just kept working, showing up on time, staying focused. But inside, I was steady with satisfaction. I'd rebuilt my dignity piece by piece. Rebecca called me into her office that Friday afternoon. "We've finished reviewing everything," she said. "The evidence is clear. You were the sole author of the proposal. Logan has admitted to misrepresenting your work." She hesitated before adding, "He'll be removed from the project immediately. We'll also be sending a formal notice to HR. The executive team knows what happened." I met her gaze and simply said, "Thank you." Rebecca's expression softened. "You handled this with a lot of grace. Most people would have exploded. You kept your head." I smiled faintly. "I had to. That was the only way to win." She nodded slowly. "Well, you've earned my respect, and the team's." When I walked back to my desk, I noticed people glancing up at me. Some gave small nods, a few even smiled. The same colleagues who had praised Logan now looked embarrassed. One of them stopped me near the copier. "I heard what happened," she said quietly. "I'm sorry I didn't realize sooner. You deserved the credit." "It's okay," I replied. "It's over now." But it wasn't over, not really. Revenge never feels clean, it lingers, echoing in the silence after everything's been exposed. Logan didn't show up the next Monday. Word spread that he'd taken personal leave, but I knew what that meant. The truth had caught up to him. His carefully built image, confident, charming, trustworthy, was gone. And yet, I didn't feel triumphant the way I expected. I felt free. A few weeks later, Rebecca promoted me to lead the next major campaign. "You've proven you can handle pressure," she said. "We need someone steady, someone with integrity." That night, as I walked home, the city lights flickered across wet pavement. I passed a cafe where Logan and I used to sit late at night, brainstorming ideas that now felt like memories from another life. I paused for a second, staring through the window at strangers laughing inside, and I realized something: I didn't hate him anymore. The anger had burned itself out, leaving behind something stronger, clarity. He had stolen from me. Lied to me. Used me. But in doing so, he had forced me to grow sharper, more careful, more resilient. I had learned how to fight without losing control. A month later, Logan showed up again. He was quieter, paler. He approached me in the hallway when most people had gone home. "I owe you an apology," he said, his voice low. "I messed up. I didn't think it would go that far." I looked at him for a long moment. "You didn't think it would go that far? You stole months of my work." "I know," he said quickly. "I was desperate. I thought if I proved myself, I'd finally get noticed." "You were already noticed," I said. "But you wanted more. You wanted easy glory." He sighed, staring at the floor. "You're right. I don't expect forgiveness." "I'm not giving it," I replied, but my tone wasn't cruel. Just final. He nodded slightly, turned, and walked away. I never saw him again. From there, everything changed. I became the person people came to for ideas, for leadership, for advice. Not because I was louder, but because I'd proven what mattered: authenticity. And yet, I never forgot that feeling, the moment when betrayal took my breath away. It became a quiet reminder of how fragile trust can be. Sometimes, when new hires joined the team, I'd catch myself studying them carefully. Not out of paranoia, but caution. You learn to guard your work, your energy, your peace. Because once someone shows you what they're capable of, you never look at trust the same way again. Months passed. My project went on to win the Firm and Industry Award. Rebecca called my name on stage, and as I walked up to accept it, I thought back to that day in the conference room, the humiliation, the doubt, the fire building in my chest. I realized then that the award wasn't the victory. I was. The person who had once been silent, hesitant, too trusting, he was gone. I had rebuilt myself from that betrayal, stronger and unshakable. As applause filled the room, I looked out at the crowd and smiled, not for them, but for the version of me that refused to give up when everything seemed unfair. That night, when I got home, I opened my laptop and saw the folder still sitting there, proof. I hovered over it for a moment. Then I deleted it. It was over. I didn't need proof anymore. All I needed was the knowledge that I had turned betrayal into power, and walked away standing taller than ever. Sometimes, I think about Logan. Maybe he's working somewhere else, trying to rebuild. Maybe he learned something too. But that's not my concern anymore. What matters is that I learned the most important lesson of my life. People will take advantage of your kindness if you let them. But when you rise from their betrayal, calm, strategic, unbreakable, they never see it coming. Now, when I walk into that same office building every morning, I still pass the glass meeting room where everything fell apart. The light from the windows reflects faintly off the polished table, and every time I glance at it, I remember the feeling, not of anger, but of resolve. That was where I stopped being naive. That was where I started becoming the person I am now. I trusted them once. That was my mistake. But I became someone who would never be broken again. And in the quiet of my own success, I felt the sweetest revenge imaginable. If you've ever been betrayed or know someone who has, hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life revenge stories.